There comes a quiet moment in every soul's journey when pretending no longer works. The masks that once kept you safe begin to suffocate you. The roles you've played for decades, the performances you gave to be accepted, suddenly feel heavy and hollow. You start to see the games people play, the empty rituals of belonging, and something deep inside whispers, "No more." The life you built with such devotion begins to feel like a cage made from other people's expectations. You are not lost, not broken, not depressed. You are awakening, and this awakening is not an explosion. It is a slow unraveling, a gentle yet unstoppable shedding of all that is false. Piece by piece, identity by identity, you let go of what is not you, until one day you look back and wonder how you ever survived, wearing those layers of illusion. Awakening doesn't strike like lightning. It seeps in like rain through dry soil. It softens, shapes, and transforms. You become sensitive to falseness, allergic to what once passed as normal. Small talk tastes like dust. Empty ambition feels hollow, and the old versions of you hang loosely, like clothes you've outgrown. This isn't a decision, it's an evolution. Your very being begins to reject untruth, the way the body rejects poison. The question isn't whether you'll let go, it's only how gently you can allow the process to unfold. The first thing to fall away is the hunger for approval. It doesn't happen with a grand announcement. It decays quietly, like fruit ripening and falling from a tree. The need to be seen, liked, or validated begins to slip through your fingers. Where once you bent yourself to please others, now you simply can't. The words feel forced. The smiles refuse to come. Your body rebels against anything insincere. This isn't rebellion born of anger. It's transformation born of truth. Like roots finally touching deep waters, you no longer depend on the rainfall of approval. And slowly, the performance ends. So, what takes its place is not arrogance or pride, but a quiet and grounded sense of worth that comes from simply existing. You begin to understand that you were never meant to earn your right to be here through applause. You exist, and that alone is sacred. It feels as though a compass has been placed in your dark heart, one that points true no matter who is watching. Approval loses its taste because you've begun to drink from a deeper well, the well of inner authority. And though this liberation feels beautiful, it can also feel lonely at first. You stand between two worlds, no longer craving validation, yet not fully comfortable in your own stillness. Then another layer falls away. You release the need to be special. For much of your life, being extraordinary seemed like the point, to stand out, to be seen as wise, talented, different. But as the awakening deepens, that hunger dissolves. You start to grow quieter about your achievements. You stop needing to prove your depth or your insight. You let the silence speak for you. At first, it can feel unsettling. You wonder, if I am not special, then who am I? Then you discover something remarkable. When the need to stand out fades, your true essence shines brighter than ever. You become yourself, unfiltered, unperformed, alive. The less you try to impress, the more naturally your presence radiates. Flowers do not bloom to gain attention. They bloom because it is their nature, and so do you. In that simplicity, life feels miraculous. The effort to appear significant falls away, replaced by a quiet peace, the freedom of simply being. And in that ordinary presence, you begin to notice the extraordinary in life itself. To exist, to breathe, to simply be, that is enough. You begin to let go of pretending. Not happiness itself, but the act of always performing positivity. You stop forcing smiles when you feel down. You stop reciting words that don't reflect your true feelings. True growth is not about perfection. It is about being real. It is about allowing yourself to feel fully and honestly. You laugh when joy comes and feel deeply when life challenges you. This authenticity may surprise those used to your old ways. They may not understand, but as you let go of performing, a new kind of light appears. Not bright and harsh, but steady, warm, and inviting. It does not overwhelm, it comforts. It says, "Here I am, authentic and present. Choosing to be real allows you to connect deeply with yourself and the world around you. Then another shift unfolds. You release the need for certainty. Old beliefs and rigid ideas begin to fade. You realize life is not meant to be controlled or fully explained. Truth is alive, vast, and ever-changing. At first, uncertainty can feel uncomfortable. You are no longer clinging to familiar edges. You float in the open space of the present moment. Yet in this surrender, a deep peace emerges, a peace that does not depend on having all the answers. You begin to see the beauty in the unknown. You were never meant to hold life in your hands. You were meant to experience it, and so you do, aware, present, and full of wonder. You start to live with curiosity, like a child observing the world for the first time. Not knowing everything is not failure, but freedom. The answers you once chased are no longer necessary. You move through life open to new experiences, no longer afraid of uncertainty. At first, your mind may resist, seeking logic and explanations, but gradually, you learn to let life flow. Every step, every breath, every passing moment holds its own quiet perfection. You begin to move with life rather than against it. As this journey continues, another realization emerges. You let go of holding grudges and negative thoughts. You stop blaming yourself or others for past events. Painful experiences remain, but they no longer define you. You begin to see each moment as an opportunity to learn and grow. Life's challenges become lessons, and every situation helps you understand more about yourself. You feel lighter, freer, and more in harmony with the world. You become the author of your own experience. The world becomes a place of learning and growth. Every challenge, every setback, and every moment of wonder is an invitation to expand. Life becomes a journey of presence, curiosity, and inner peace, and you discover that simply being yourself is enough. Then comes one of the most subtle and necessary transformations. You stop using spirituality as a hiding place. You no longer use meditation to escape your emotions, or lofty words to avoid your wounds. The awakening that once lifted you upward now pulls you inward and downward, anchoring you in your body, in your humanity. You stop trying to rise above life, and instead begin to live it fully. You allow anger to burn, grief to wash through, confusion to humble you. You stop labeling emotions as low or wrong. You start to see them as sacred colors in the grand painting of existence. Every feeling becomes a prayer, every tear a form of truth. You begin to understand that the soul does not seek perfection, it seeks wholeness. And to be whole is to include it all. You stop trying to float above the world and instead plant your feet firmly upon it. Spirit and matter, heaven and earth, become one breath, one heartbeat. And though the temptation to escape still whispers, your soul will not let you. Every attempt to bypass life only brings you back to what you tried to avoid until you finally surrender. And in that surrender, you find gold. Being human is not the obstacle to awakening. It is the very doorway to it. To feel deeply is to meet the divine in its rawest form. To love, to fear, to grieve, to hope. These are not distractions from enlightenment. They are the texture of it. As this truth takes root, another illusion begins to dissolve. The illusion of separation. In the early stages of awakening, it's easy to feel alone, set apart from the world. You see the sleep of others, the noise of the crowd, and you withdraw, believing yourself to be different. For a time, solitude feels sacred. But as your awareness deepens, the walls of isolation begin to melt. You stop seeing yourself as superior or separate. You recognize the shared humanity that flows through all beings. The same breath, the same ache, the same longing for peace. You see yourself in the stranger, the skeptic, the seeker, the ordinary. And in that recognition, loneliness fades. You find belonging not through belief or similarity, but through presence. You can sit beside anyone, awake or asleep, and simply meet them where they are. You no longer need to convince, to prove, or to hide. You can just be, And in that quiet being, you rediscover love. Not the fragile love of romance or desire, but the steady love that exists beneath all things, the love of presence, existence itself. You realize that when all masks fall away, what remains between us is always love. It was there before the words, before the wounds, before the stories. It was what you were seeking all along. And now you see, awakening was never about becoming someone new. It was about shedding everything false. One by one, the layers fall away. The hunger for approval, the need to be special, the performance of happiness, the obsession with certainty, the weight of blame, the escape of bypassing, the illusion of isolation. Not because you reject them, but because you have outgrown them. Because your soul can no longer carry what is untrue. You have not become perfect. You have become real. And in that realness, raw, open, and alive, you finally remember what it means to be free. It all begins to fall away. The false layers, the heavy stories, the masks that once felt like survival. They crumble, not in anger, but because they have become too small for who you are becoming. They can no longer hold your expanding truth. And in their place, something astonishing takes root, an inner stillness, a quiet confidence, a peace that needs no proof. You begin to feel a genuine joy that does not depend on circumstances, an authenticity that no longer needs to be performed. You discover the calm beauty of not knowing, the grace of simply being, the freedom that comes when you stop trying to fix yourself. This journey may feel like loss at first, like dying in slow motion, identity after identity fading away, story after story. But if you look closer, you'll see that what feels like death is actually birth. Each layer that falls away makes space for something real. Each ending reveals more of the timeless self that has been waiting beneath it all. You are not losing yourself. You are finding the one who was there before all the pretending began. You are not dying. You are being reborn in every moment you surrender to truth. As the false begins to fade, what remains is astonishingly simple. It doesn't shout or demand attention. It just is. It is the quiet, unmovable presence of your own being, untouched by judgment, untouched by fear. You begin to see that awakening was never about collecting more knowledge or becoming more spiritual. It was always about removing what isn't true. It's not about becoming a better version of yourself. It's about letting go of every version that was built to please or protect. Awakening is not an achievement, it is a homecoming. And like every true return, it unfolds slowly. You stumble, you hesitate, you fall back into old patterns, only to realize they no longer fit. You taste an old comfort and find it hollow. You revisit an old belief and feel how lifeless it has become. This is not failure. This is growth. Transformation moves like the ocean, wave after wave advancing and retreating, until one day you realize the tide has turned and the old shore of who you were is gone. So when you feel yourself quitting the hunger for approval, letting go of the desperate need to be seen, stepping away from the exhausting pursuit of being special, releasing the endless performance of happiness, loosening your grip on certainty, surrendering blame, turning from patterns of escape, peeling away the walls of isolation, do not fear it. Do not rush it, and do not resist it. Let it move through you like a river carving canyons over millennia. Life itself is the unseen artist. You are not the sculptor. You are the clay, the stone, the vessel being shaped, kneaded, and smoothed by hands wiser than your mind. The more gently you surrender, the more gracefully the transformation unfolds. Awakening is not a road you walk. It is a current that carries you, and all that is required is that you stop clinging to the banks. Stop trying to control the flow, and look carefully at your own life. Can you feel it happening already? The friendships that once felt effortless but now drain you. The ambitions that used to ignite fire in your chest but now leave you hollow. The roles you wore as armor that now feel suffocating. They are falling away because they no longer serve your truth. Do not mourn these endings. They are not losses. They are liberation. They are sacred openings, doorways into the space that will hold your real self. The self that has been waiting beneath every mask you ever wore, beneath every role you ever performed. Celebrate them. Every ending is a signal, a blessing, an invitation to step closer to who you truly are. Beneath the noise, beneath the stories, beneath the masks, there waits a self so luminous, so free, so alive, that once you glimpse it, nothing in the world can tempt you back into compromise, pretense, or performance. This is the essence of awakening. It is not about becoming someone new. It is about remembering the one you have always been. The one untouched by comparison, untouched by judgment, untouched by fear. The one who existed long before the world told you who to be. And when you live from that place, life changes, everything lightens. The compulsions to prove yourself, to control, to perform, to manipulate outcomes, all of these lose their grip. You begin to move with the current of existence rather than against it. You realize the river has been carrying you all along, that all struggle, all striving, all effort to make life fit your expectations was only resistance to the grace that was always present. Do not resist the quitting. Let it happen. Let life peel away everything heavy, false, and outdated. Let yourself fall away from what is no longer true. Yes, it will be uncomfortable. Yes, moments of loneliness, of uncertainty, of emptiness will arise. But remember, emptiness is not absence. It is fertile space. It is the quiet room of your soul, the clearing where what is real begins to bloom. And in that space, the real you emerges, quietly, naturally, irresistibly. What seems like loss is actually preparation. What feels like death is actually the doorway to freedom. And when the false dissolves, what remains is love. Not the conditional, fragile love that needs validation, that fades with recognition, but the vast, unshakable, eternal love that holds the universe together. That love is your essence. It was never lost. It was never broken. It only waited for your remembering. When you finally rest as yourself, without roles, without masks, without performance, you discover the simplest, most astonishing truth. You were never incomplete. You were never missing anything. You were never asleep. You were only dreaming that you were. And now, in this surrender, in this quiet return, you awaken. Awakening is the freedom of being nothing and everything at once. The freedom of no longer pretending. The freedom of inhabiting your own being fully. The freedom of no longer needing to prove yourself. The freedom of being real. The freedom of coming home to your own soul, where no external opinion can shake your worth, where no expectation can dim your light. And as you step into this freedom, life itself begins to breathe differently. Colors feel brighter, moments feel fuller. Every breath feels sacred. Every encounter, every challenge, every quiet pause in your day carries depth and meaning. You discover that simply being alive is miraculous, and so the river of awakening carries you ever onward. It is not a path you walk. It is a current you surrender to. And in that surrender, you find that all endings are beginnings. All losses are openings. All emptiness is fertile space for the real, luminous self to flower. You begin to live from your essence rather than your fears, from your heart rather than your mind. You begin to see that the life you were searching for was never somewhere else. It has always been here, waiting inside you, behind the illusions, beneath the masks, beyond the stories. This is the heart of awakening. It is not about achieving, not about fixing, not about becoming someone else. It is about remembering who you have always been. It is about letting go of everything that is false until only truth remains. And that truth does not need applause, validation, or certainty. That truth does not blame, bypass, or hide. It simply is. And when you live from that place, life itself becomes lighter, simpler, more fluid. The current carries you effortlessly. The river of existence was always supporting you. You only had to stop resisting. So let yourself quit. Let yourself fall away from what is false. Do not fear the emptiness it leaves, for it is the space in which your true self flowers. Let yourself release everything that is heavy, everything that is untrue, everything that is no longer yours. Yes, there will be discomfort. Yes, there may be moments of isolation. Yes, it may feel like death, but beyond that death is life, more vivid, more real, more free than you have ever known. What remains when all that is false has gone is love, vast, unshakable, eternal love. That love is your own nature. That love is the foundation of the universe. That love is you. And in that love, in that truth, and that awakening, you remember, finally, that you were never incomplete. You were never missing. You were never separate. You were always whole. And now you are awake. And in that waking, life itself becomes miraculous.